they will not usually bring their best player out at the very start. They'll usually start with a player that's got like a good matchup spread, and then if they've got a lead, they go for their best player on maybe set 2 or set 3, so that they can really establish that dominance.
Well, it's interesting because as opposed to a sort of crew battle, this sort of team format that we see can bring out a lot of different psychological battles that come out in crew battles with a lot of inexperienced teams. You see them really waiting to bring out their most powerful player because they really want that closer, and because of that, they lose so much ground. But you can be a little more liberal with your choices here because every time a set is done, the slate is wiped clean. And so I think choices can differ very often between teams when it comes to these team matchups like this. Even like from one match to another, I think teams can have very different orders depending on what rosters they're sort of studying and going against in the upcoming weeks.
Very correct. And I love that you mentioned actually seeing the opponent's team's rosters, because that actually is another factor, you know, thinking, okay, normally we normally, because you don't know who the first player will be unless it's like pretty much definitive first for a team. But usually it's like a team will just go, okay, which player do we think has the best matchup against that entire team? Like the most even matchup maybe. And then after that though, it really gets into those counter picking situations. And it would be interesting to see how these two teams get into that now, because Quinnipiac, they do have some solid players, and so does Marist. So I think Quinnipiac has the advantage here in terms of the counter pick. They get to counter pick players, I'm pretty sure. And that gives an opportunity to maybe go, okay, maybe we're going to go against someone that has like a really bad matchup against a specific set of characters. And that's really interesting because, you know, you can see sometimes those kinds of situations where it's like, okay, you're a really good player, but we don't really care.
You're in this midpoint of a stage where, you know, the games are still pretty close. And because of that, you can sort of fall back on not necessarily worrying about what matchup you're about to do, but cornering your opponents into tougher and tougher matchups as the game goes on, bringing out those really kind of limited counter picks in the beginning and then going to more powerful sorts of counter picks as the matchup goes on, so you're ready for more options as the game nears its end. Both of these teams can kind of fall back on that at the moment. And I think we're seeing kind of different versions of that as Quinnipiac is going to go to a Sonic and Marist is going to fall on the Bowser.
Absolutely. And so Quinnipiac bringing out a Sonic is a very interesting pick here as well, because Sonic can really slow down the pace of any set. But I mean, and that's definitely helpful because it gives all of the players some time to think, maybe some time to consider these upcoming matchups as well, to think or strategize.
I mean, Bowser just gets so oppressed by Sonic. His zoning, that's the hardest part about Sonic is when he was made the fastest character, he was also made the character that could get out faster than anyone else, and that makes it so difficult to kind of punish commitment from Sonic, because commitment from Sonic is extremely minimal on a side like PS2 as well. Sonic can really kind of play around with these platforms that Bowser would normally have the time of his life on. But I think that Marist is doing a really good job of zoning out properly and just keeping this Bowser alive, currently 2 stocks up, and still finding some damage before this Sonic can finish things off.
For sure, because if you look, Theory doesn't really matter if you've got a Bowser main that's got a huge lead. I mean,
exactly.
Bowser is the wild card character in a lot of these online formats, because this character can just blow you up in a matter of 2 or 3 interactions. This is kill percent for an F match.
Oh, absolutely. No, especially when you're on the edge, which is where this Sonic has kind of been going to more often than not. That's the hardest part about facing this Bowser, is that you can land as many hits as you want, but you never, ever, 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 ever want to get caught by Bowser yourself. And it was happening in these first couple stocks, but I think that we're seeing a little better spacing now, a lot more smash attacks coming out, this forward smash from Sonic, so disjointed, so unpunishable by even someone that has as powerful and long range tilts and command grabs with that side B as Bowser. And we're seeing a lot less damage come out because of it. This might be a 1-to-1 before the day is done in this first of 3 we're seeing here. Nobody's really landing anything to get the finishing blow. Great spot dodge, though, to equalize.
For sure. I mean, like, if we're looking right now, it's sort of changed the pace completely. I like that you mentioned earlier about how it went from a lot of control from Marist's side, but now it's sort of become a bait and punish game. You mentioned the smash attacks. Usually those are pretty good with punishing tools because you can't usually land those in neutral. So, okay. Yeah, Sonic has a very good recovery.
Oh,
but,
that's so much damage, though.
Yeah, this is literally a single hit of, like, anything from Bowser. That almost killed.
No, Whirling Fortress up the middle can be so dangerous, as unpredictable as it is. But yeah, that side B, on top of the platform especially, that's going to be the finisher. Marist, they've found the tie now. It's going to be 6-6, and they're 1 game away from scoring those extra points. Very exciting for them. I'm wondering if the Sonic will... I don't actually know the rules. Are you supposed to keep your character for the entire set, or can you change? I do not know.
You're allowed to change.
You're allowed to change. Okay, well then... I don't know. I mean, the Sonic was definitely working later in to those stocks, so I don't necessarily see them changing off of it. I just see them changing the play style like they were in that 3rd stock. Again, a lot more smash attacks, a lot more kind of spot dodging and shielding against this Bowser. We didn't get to see a lot of Whirling Fortresses out of shield simply because Zucchini, who I believe was playing the Bowser on Marist, I don't think he had to. I think all they had to do was really kind of just go in for the side B, and if it didn't work, maybe like run back out and then do a tilt as Sonic came back. It wasn't really a back and forth so much as it was a one player had control for 30 seconds, then another player kind of rescinded that control, took it for 30 seconds, and it was that kind of long-winded sort of seesawing that we saw, and that we might very well see again if this Sonic keeps the play style that we saw game 1, and we're going back to PS2 for it.
And I'm interested on bringing up the idea that they're sort of trading interactions for like every 30 seconds, because usually in that situation, Bowser will win that because Bowser has, Bowser could dish out a lot more than Sonic. And Bowser could take a lot more than Sonic. So playing that game is sort of a losing battle, which I think that's why Soul Cake has been going for those sort of bait and punish play style for the rest of that game. It was working, but it was a little bit too late. And that's important because if you can keep that adaptation and prevent your opponent from adapting for the next game, which we're in right now, then you could completely change like history, seeing, okay, it was working at the end there. Even though I lost, I have to still remember it was working. Whoa, what was that?
I think that's just Wi-Fi. I'm gonna be real with you. That might just be Wi-Fi, really. Just messing up the spacing a tiny bit. Those kind of reapproaches for Bowser can be very difficult against someone like Sonic, but the more time you give Bowser, the more time that they're gonna keep on winning. But Soul Cake doing a great job of continuously zoning out Zucchini a lot more than this previous game, but that might be a kill. No, it doesn't go on the platform, so it's not enough. Zucchini's got to finish this off quick because Soul Cake's on almost max rage.
Yeah, once you get to max rage, that Sonic F smash, especially when two-framing with it, is going to be so dangerous. You really have to like keep aware of that threat. Okay, yeah. Bowser back air will kill you from pretty much anywhere.
100%. Yeah, no, but as long as Zucchini's still in the air, which can be really constantly here. Oh, that's some great zoning there with the neutral air to up tilt. That's just playing keep away with Soul Cake as long as it can, and Zucchini's not done. 63% now. This is so good. Just the same kind of bait and switching we saw from Soul Cake. Zucchini's now kind of pulling them themselves, kind of letting Soul Cake gain that space for a moment, and then punishing that sort of downtime after Soul Cake has taken that space. And it's now a tied up game, but any sort of tie, you know, that's going to go Bowser's way no matter what, and we see that in spades here. Now 2-1.
And this is definitely an interesting situation here because so Zucchini has to sort of think. So Zucchini did see that Soul Cake, after building up that lead, sort of built up also a habits, you know, sort of a pattern, and that's the worst thing possible against a character with a command grab. Building up habits, because command grabs normally they don't have huge hitboxes, but if you know where your opponent's going to be, you can sort of just throw it out, and your opponent will just land into it. It'll just run right into what you want. And that's not what you want against this.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of flying slams land, really. Like, very, like, way too many from Zucchini we've seen actually come out on top, just because eventually Soul Cake has had to approach, and Zucchini is ready for it every time, because Sonic can kind of become kind of a broken record if you don't play your cards right. Oh, can't tech it. Oh, that's tragic. Zucchini just not far away enough, and just like that, Quinnipiac is 1 point up once more, and it's, you know, one more game could really settle things.
And one thing that I want to mention right now is that Zucchini had the opportunity to win the game when it got to that trade on the last stock, and they were both really high up in the air, because that gave the perfect opportunity, because Zucchini was well below Soul Cake, and Soul Cake was going for a back air. Zucchini could have up aired, and it would have just ended the game, because Soul Cake was at like, what, 90%? That's ending the game right there. And so little decisions like that, you know, sometimes on the fly in panic situations can really like be the difference between a win and a loss.
It's difficult gauging a sort of game against either of these characters, because they play so wildly differently. They're on like opposite ends of the spectrum of kind of strategies when it comes to playing a game of Smash. Bowser's sort of all in your face, trying to punish you at every waking moment, and Sonic, that ultimate non-committal gameplay, just, you know, petering in, petering out, and then getting that final blow. Not necessarily camping, but probably it's like second cousin twice removed.
It's definitely camping. I'm gonna be real here. 100% camping.
Because camping has a negative connotation, and there's nothing bad about what this Sonic is doing. I'm not saying that. I'm not legally responsible for calling it camping.
It's not controversial to call a Sonic player camping.
It's setting up a tent and sleeping in it outside in the woods.
Yeah, looking at the stars.
You know, yeah, exactly. They just happen to be setting up on a campsite, but that's not what they're saying they are doing. They are giving it a different title.
Oh, oh no!
They really are setting up shop in center stage right now. My God.
Yeah, big problem there from Zucchini, getting too complacent with hitting with those command grabs, and has just been going for them and getting those stuffed out every single time this game. And kind of needs to change up that game plan, because at the moment it's just not really... Oh, okay, finally landed one.
Zucchini's got to stop going for down airs. I'm going to say that right now. You can only spot dodge out of it, or roll out of it, or like whirling fortress out of it for so long. I think down airs, especially from the center of the stage where Soul Cake has been so comfortable, that's got to stop at the very least. You can try and get like a 2-frame off of recovery with down air, but Bowser has so much better tools, even from coming down from the air. You could go up to ledge and try for a get up or roll out into whirling fortress. For all I really care, down air can just make you so weak, because the cooldown off of it can be so long. Soul Cake can run in with another spin dash of any kind, any sort of special move. He can really kind of just run with it and kind of get a lot out of it.
So one thing also, that's like a general habit that a lot of Bowser players have, because it's like an immediately, usually like at a very early stage of learning Bowser, you'll be like, oh, this works.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a problem sometimes. You know, it's like it's a bad habit that is really hard to get out, because it's like something you've got at the very... Oh, wow. That's another thing. Zucchini needs to tech. That is like 3 times now where Zucchini has like had a perfect opportunity to get a tech, and they would have lived very easily if they had the tech.
That's kind of
didn't work.
It's hard watching the differences between these characters, because down air worked that time, but you can see that Soul Cake was perfectly fine kind of approaching from there, because the difference between Soul Cake and Zucchini, while they both have stall and fall moves, is Sonic is so much comfier in the air. Most of their edge guarding revolves around going for an up B into an aerial, which you can never see from most other characters. That's one of Sonic's specialties, is maintaining that comfort in the air. And Bowser just cannot do that, but what they can do is land a massive up smash with Zucchini up 2 stocks. That's a whole 4 points going the way of Marist, leading to a 3-point gap going into game number 4.
Absolutely incredible stuff from Zucchini there. Seeing that Soul Cake was also at the end going for those down airs, like you mentioned earlier, but Bowser's down air is much better of a landing option than Sonic's in general, because Sonic's you don't have as big of a hitbox, and the landing hitbox is not quite as big, so it's a lot easier to punish it. especially when you have a command grab that will just kill you.
Yeah, no, Sonic definitely can't use that down air to get back on, but we did see Soul Cake use it a lot on the edge to try and, take advantage of the fact that Zucchini was just not really able to land those techs and just got spaced out a little too far out of the blast zone.
Yes.
But definitely didn't lead to it. Zucchini just got away with so much. Honestly, got away with a lot of whirling fortresses landed, a lot of flying slams landed. I mean, Soul Cake was just getting so predictable by the end of game 3, and it just led to a great snowball there. Really awesome job by Marist's Bowser main. They're up 3 points now heading into match number 4. And I mean, both of these teams, while they're running out of options, Marist is all of a sudden much more comfortable in that position.
A 3-point lead is pretty much a whole match's worth of points. And that's big because that means that if Marist wins this next match, then Quinnipiac has to double 3 stock in order to win.
Yeah, at the very least, those 2 points are going to, drive you up to a 5-point lead, which is kind of, you can't really come back from that in your last match, in your final hour. It is very, very difficult unless you absolutely dominate that. And for good reason, Marist, that'll be their 3rd match that they would have won out of this entire series, and that would be the majority of the matches that would be played. So it's understandable. So Quinnipiac, they're definitely looking to make this a 2-2 series to at least make the numbers a little more even going into match number 5 to try and find that. Of course, it's funny because you want to say that like Quinnipiac really wants to win this match, but duh, of course, every team always wants to win every match, like really, really badly. But when it's written out like this plainly in front of you, when you have to come back from this brink that's staring you down and walking towards you faster and faster, it can be a lot scarier.
Absolutely. And one thing to mention also, so while we were talking about how like it's sort of starting to break down here, between these two teams, also Quinnipiac has burned their best player for the very, very start. And that means that if Marist wins this next match, then the best chance Quinnipiac had at getting a double 3 stock is already gone. So it's definitely a rough situation for the team.
I mean, that's the trouble with kind of finding comfort in that early snowball is Quinnipiac, they had the lead at the end of that first match because they won it, but they just don't have the firepower to back that first win up, at least as we've seen so far. There are still 2 more members on the Quinnipiac roster. There are still up to 6 games that can be played to regain that ground, but Quinnipiac, they're going to have to fight tooth and nail, and like you said, they're not going to have their best man there to do it, which is troubling.
Yeah, and it's really like a matter of you gotta think sometimes, okay, Mr. Purple, definitely a very good player, but that's also like definitely a really good player. Gotta, be a bit sparing with how you arrange your team in terms of like order, stuff like that, because usually you'll only see a team go for, we mentioned this earlier as well, or we talked about it, of team composition being like depending on the situation, you'll put in your best player earlier than normal. Sometimes you'll see that as an anchor, but usually you'll see it as the 3rd player because that's either a good momentum shift or a good way to keep your momentum going. And putting it at the start kind of just, I don't agree with the choice. That's all I can really.
Well, we know what happened in the start, but we are nearing the end. Absol's coming in for Marist, and Grit is coming in for Quinnipiac as their 4th members to duke it out. We should be heading into this arena soon.
And if I remember correctly, Grit is a Bowser Jr. player.
Ah, okay. Very interesting. So the father took the top spot for Marist. Maybe the son will take the top spot for Quinn. You never know. Bowser Jr., it's difficult because Bowser Jr. has sort of moved all around the conversation a lot because Bowser Jr. has some amazing tools in their kit, and yet at the same time, they have so many tools. They have so many tools that kind of hinder all of the Koopalings, really. Their weight mechanics are really wonky. Of course, their recovery is pretty terrible.
They're also easier to kill. Like once they're out of uppy, they're easier to kill. Like their weight goes down.
They're so
not
light,
just off of not being able to recover. Their weight goes down.
Exactly.
And you'll usually see a Bowser Jr. player go up go up to chase using the uppy. So that means that they're doing a very high risk situation, and that can be scary sometimes. Also, Bowser Jr. definitely has a linear game plan. So because of that linear game plan, it's very easy to predict what your opponent's going to do, especially once you reach a certain level of play.
It's definitely tough trade-outs, but if you can manage Bowser Jr. effectively, then you can take control of so much territory on the stage. Bowser Jr. has an amazing jab, an incredible forward smash. Mecha Koopa is a really great zoning tool just to sort of get some ledge traps going, and just kind of pressure off of recovery, which Bowser Jr. does really effectively. Just takes care of a lot of options really frequently, which I think is great. But beyond that, like you said, yeah, I mean, Bowser, yeah, the Koopalings, they have a linear style that can absolutely be said. They can't do much with what they're given, and they're not given that much.
And that's sort of where that discussion of like characters that are high tier, low tier, mid tier sort of falls into place, because high tier characters and top tier characters generally have a lot of options. Take, for example, like Pikachu. Pikachu has great recovery, has great zoning tools and boxing tools. Can't really say the same about a character like, say, Ganondorf. Ganondorf, not very good recovery.
What can't you say about Ganondorf?
Yeah, exactly. Like, not very good recovery. Zoning tools are literally non-existent. Boxing tools are slow but very dangerous. It just like makes it so that, you know, you can see the difference in two characters pretty apparent. Like, it's pretty apparent, and that really just also shows as to when, like, say, a DLC character would come out, as to which characters had that potential comes from. Like, for example, Steve. The character has literally an option for everything. Very obviously a good character. It's just a matter of how much free time do you have to practice with that character.
Well, let's talk about the Bowser Jr. matchup. There's absolutely a lot of great counters, but for Marist, what do you think would be the best to kind of master this gap, make sure that this win is unobtainable for Quinnipiac? Because as long as Marist wins with at least 4 stocks up, then this is a done deal.
I'm thinking maybe go for a...
Like, what can absolutely decimate Bowser Jr.?
A Spacey could definitely make a Bowser Jr. have a bad time. Because first up, you have a reflector, so those zoning tools, like the Mecha Koopa and the Cannonball, both not quite as effective anymore. But also, you have fantastic boxing tools as any Spacey. The moment you get in, you are doing so much. You get so much value. And they all have pretty good edge guarding tools as well. So a Bowser Jr. trying to recover can also get gimped very easily.
I think Fox would probably have the best time here against Bowser Jr. Out of the 3 Spaceys. The fast falling on the recovery would do a great job.
That'll do a great job as well.
Is an incredible option against Bowser Jr. Like a disgustingly dangerous option. So many great tools.
You could even take the against Bowser Jr. part out of the statement, and it will still be true. Palutena is a fantastic option in most situations. The character is just very, very good. It's exactly what we were talking about, of having all those options. This character has them all. Boxing tools, close-up options, good zoning tools as well, the auto reticle and the explosive flame. It's just very good tools overall, and really just you just better character the opponent.
God, the fact that Palutena's tools can just sort of wall out whatever Bowser Jr. has to just even get back to where they need to be, that's kind of all you need to really say to start things out. Abso using a lot of these tools to their advantage, but I gotta say, Grid is doing a great job of just predicting where Abso is gonna fall back on in these matchups and taking a lot of advantage of it, and that side B is doing a great job of getting Grit around as long as Abso isn't in the way. And, you know, we've seen a lot of conversions off of that into the down air and the forward aerial off of that already, and wow, just spinning right through that auto reticle. You know, it seems that that Grit is really ready for this matchup.
And that's another thing that I think is a fantastic topic to mention. So because Palutena is such a good character, a lot of people play her. That means that a lot of people will know what to do against this character, while Bowser Jr. not as common. So those linear game plans are not quite as well known. So it makes it a lot harder to counterplay.
True. Palutena has a lot of activity here, but as long as Grit can find a solid hit, that won't be the case this time. First stock will be taken off, but it has a 33% lead and looking to increase it at the moment. Interesting way to get out, but doesn't get properly punished for it. Explosive Flame. God, everything Palutena does is just so active for such a long time. Up smash, down tilt, forward tilt, like everything just lasts for a lifetime and then some.
And if you're noticing here, they're going for the side B a lot. Grit is. So because they're seeing, okay, they're playing more of a zoner play style for the most part, you know, trying to space out. If I just do this, just get in so quickly they can't even use their great zoning tools, I could sort of just have a great time.
Yeah, no, as long as Grit has gotten inside, he's, you know, they've been playing at a massive advantage a lot of the time, just because Abso doesn't have the time to sort of deal with things. Jumping out into a neutral air isn't exactly a great option when you're getting boxed out on the edge at the moment. You got a lot more things to worry about, but that Hound Smash will carry through, and Abso will survive the trade, actually, and it's going to start trying to ramp up this damage here on this first game to increase the lead, but Grit's not done just yet. This is nice and close in this first game. I couldn't ask for anything more.
I think one thing that I'm noticing is like a fatal flaw in Absol's game plan, though. They're not grabbing very much. So every single time Grit shields, Abso is just respecting it and just wasting a lot of great opportunities for damage because Palu gets a lot off of a grab.
It's very true. No, Palutena can find a lot out of grabs, can carry into a lot of aerial combos that can just really get to a kill percent nice and quickly. That up smash, very active, but it is a sour spot as time goes on. Won't lead to the KO just yet, but 117, and Grit is kind of making himself more of an open target as time goes on. But yeah, like you said, Abso just not punishing on shield right now, and it's leading to Grit having a lot more time to just kind of wait for things to pass on and until they find advantage, which will eventually come as finding bits of damage here and there, tying things up yet again. Jab gets countered and Mecha Koopa gets jumped over, so Abso has the field again. How long can they control it? Can they find the KO in time? The back air from Grit will not KO. Staying close, though, still on the edge. Grit has all the cards in the world now for another back air. That will find the first win for Quinnipiac. It's going to be 10-8 going into game number 2.
And this is exactly what we saw. A fantastic display of how Abso respected the shield way too much. And we saw every single time Abso would try to approach, Grit would just shield, and Abso would just do nothing. We'd see like maybe a dash attack, which would instantly get punished. We would see maybe like just anything that is not grab. And by that point, that would have been a perfect opportunity to maybe condition so that you can grab. But because also grabbing with Palu gives you so many opportunities to get a good combo started. It's how you get things going with, say, like a neutral air exchange, like neutral air train, or you could just use it to get your opponent off stage. And we saw fantastic opportunities kind of wasted.
I mean, Abso, I think they just have to use more of their moves. It's as simple as that. Grab more often, neutral air more often, up air a lot more often, as Grit has been kind of forced to up B a couple times a game, which, I mean, every time you're forced to up B as Bowser Jr. is a couple seconds where your opponent has so much freedom. So I think Abso just has to recognize the danger that Grit is in extremely often. And kind of just take advantage of that a lot more.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, Abso also, like you mentioned, needed to deal with those up Bs. It wasn't just the shield that they were too respectful for. They were also just too respectful towards that up B. They were just, like we'd see a high recovery from Bowser Jr., which is generally a death sentence. Abso would just go away. They would go, oh, okay, I'll let you get back on stage. And that's not what you want.
Winning this game at all would net Quinnipiac the lead heading into game number 5. They've got to get to that last stock first. And, you know, as well as Grit did, they are still a Bowser Jr. playing against a Palutena, so they are always in a disadvantaged state. And that can be so terrifying on a stage that can occasionally become quite flat, where you can't sort of resort to recovering high and landing quick. You might have to sort of depend on going low, and that's where Abso might find themselves shining. But some great conversions here. Grit is just really keeping pace.
Oh no,
that's gonna kill.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's another thing about Town. The sides are very short, and there is a platform that is even closer to the side than the ledge. So you could sometimes just die at nothing.
I mean, that's not to say that jab isn't great. That jab is so quality.
It is,
jab that kills as early as that off the side. Yeah, on Town and City, I mean, that's Bowser Jr.'s bread and butter right there. Pummels too often. Grit can mash out. That is critical there. They could have gotten a back throw and maybe killed off of that, but the up air instead, that could work just as well. But Grit has found so much damage so early on in this, and Abso forgot to throw the Mecha Koopa, I think, which has already led to them being
in a
disadvantaged state off the edge, and just like that, Grit is up a stock.
Abso, what are you doing? That was like such a fantastic start. We saw Abso was finally grabbing, but that's the only adaptation they've made. And that means that like Grit is playing much more like a much more like advanced level here, because Abso is only making tiny adjustments at a time, while Grit is playing an entirely different game plan than before.
Abso is too prepared for Grit to play safely.
Why?
Grit
that would have killed.
To play safely right now. Grit hasn't had to play safely at all. Abso's kind of preparing for the plan B that Grit would go for, but Grit hasn't had to rely on that. He hasn't had to fall back on anything. All they've had to do is play the game, and they've been able to do it as much as they've wanted so far. They've recovered for free every time. They've gotten out of 2 grabs, and they just killed off the other side with a forward smash with a 2-stock lead. Quinnipiac is up 12-10.
I am just so confused there. We saw a grab on the ledge, like not even on the ledge, on the outside platform. And instead of throwing, we saw, pummel 4 times again and grab release. Way too respectful of a player here.
Yeah.
Especially when it's a character like Bowser Jr. You cannot afford to be respectful. Especially when being respectful was the downfall last game. Like,
no, Abso should have went in. Plain and simple. Like, that's absolutely what Abso should have done that entire time. Just seeing the opponent and went towards it. They have the better moves. They have more damage. They have every tool under the sun. But Abso stayed back, went for too many moves, trying to sort of read Grit's fear whenever Grit was in a disadvantage. But Grit's always in a disadvantage. They're Bowser Jr. They don't care. They're going to walk back onto this stage and keep fighting you.
Not only that, though, Grit never had a reason to be afraid.
It's true.
Like, you can't just play off of playing against your opponent's fear if you don't do something to instill fear into your opponent. You have to do the thing to scare your opponent in the first place in order to play off of that.
It's very true. Well, Marist has to win. It is still, I mean, this match is still dependent entirely on who wins. A 2-point gap is just little enough for Marist to be able to win this series as long as they win this match. But Quinnipiac, if they find solid leads where they need to, I mean, if they win this matchup, then they're up. But if Quinnipiac, there is a possibility, I think. Let me do the math real quick. They take 3. Well, they take
if Marist
4.
takes a 3-stock in this game,
if there's 1 3-stock and then they lose by 1 stock 2 times, then Quinnipiac can still win this.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of a once in a blue moon kind of thing that I think we'll see. I think it'll just be dependent on who wins this match.
Yeah, especially when like your number 1 player is already done for the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like usually on most teams, unless your name is Mississippi State University, you are very rarely going to be able to even get more than 1 3-stock, let alone like say double 3-stocks or something. Mississippi, I think, is the only team I've ever seen do that, where their entire game plan in their first season was literally just, oh yeah, Maze and Yosefu will just 6-stock every opponent, and then as long as one other member wins, yeah, as long as one other member wins, it's impossible for the other team to even come close.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Is like, as this point system can definitely favor kind of highbrow losses. It still tends to be, if you win 3-2, you win the series. So we'll see a Sephiroth v Shulk here. Two characters that kind of stay out of the limelight, but nonetheless have incredible potential in their kits, especially Shulk, who's being played by Quinnipiac's Bako.
Yeah, and so Sephiroth and Shulk both have those sort of, they've got very long range, which does mean that it can be kind of difficult for both of them to get in, but they don't really want to get in too close. But Sephiroth has a bit more range than Shulk, so that does mean that, you know, if you kind of try and play that a little bit of zoning, but more of a spacing game, you can actually sort of win it out just off of pure exchanges. And I just want to say, that grab on the vision was fantastic.
Bako is finding a lot of advantages here on the Buster from the Monado, but Luck knows that and is doing a great job of trying to play space here, tries to approach, but Bako immediately finds so much exposure from it, and that's going to equalize things yet again. Wing is out, but so is Smash, and Bako's immediately forced to switch back just to get on safely. These players, they're both clearly so adaptive, and nobody's really found too long of a point where they're kind of taking the game by storm just yet, and that's exactly how you want it to be if you're watching a game like this. But if you're playing, especially if you're on Marist, you need to find something, and you need to do it quick as Bako finds a forward smash, giving them the first stock.
And I want to mention a fantastic play that... Whoa. I
mean, that's 2-2.
Okay. So, Bako did a fantastic decision in that first stock to just completely respect. We're seeing it again. Whenever Luke will try to recover, Bako will just respect it, because against Sephiroth, if you don't respect the recovery, sometimes they will B-reverse it, and you'll, when trying to edge guard, accidentally just die.
I think that Bako's doing a great job of utilizing every part of the Monado. I was fearing Shield from the Monado is usually just a great tool to sort of get out of combos, but Sephiroth isn't exactly known for their, like, huge combo game, I'm gonna say that. But even so, they're using it as a great tool to kind of prepare for the approach upon Luck managing to land something and then taking less damage because of that. And I love that playstyle from Bako. It's leading to a lot less connection in those sorts of points where Luck has a lead. And because of that, Bako can climb back so quickly. And that's leading to yet another lead in the stocks. But can Luck find this as quickly? No, Bako's going to find some damage first.
And this is going to be scary here. So we saw only one time Bako challenged the recovery from Luke, but that one time it worked really well. And that might be Bako conditioning Luke here.
So slow here, trying to find damage, switches it up to speed. God, watching Shulk just be so fluid is one of the most satisfying things in this game, in my humble opinion. Sephiroth from Luck just having so much trouble finding a finisher at the moment. The down smash was able to come in, but fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. We are not in this matchup equally, but Quinnipiac's roster has proven to keep up the pace no matter who they're playing against. Bako looking to do just that, 60% here, and Luck just still having so much trouble finding it. He's back on shield again. So much sustainability here from this Shulk, and you can tell Luck is getting desperate.
That's the second time we've seen Bako challenge Luke's recovery, and it worked again. Of like, Luke is very scared. We could, like, this is a really scary situation. And what? Oh, yeah, that doesn't work because
he got back. Yeah. Definitely a hard sort of stasis to be in here. Good shield to make sure you get out of that Nair chain. That side B's been pretty helpful for Luke to at least stall things out, but again, because they've constantly been in this point where they're kind of out of options, they can't really complete upon it, and it's leading to Bako finding more and more states where they can just find the damage, find the kills, and find the first victory. One game away from Quinnipiac finding yet another win for the books.
But this is still doable as long as Luke can make those adjustments, because this is only a 3-point lead. And the fact that it's a 3-point lead, it was so important that Luke took that stock in that, like at the end there, to be able to actually make it last stock situation does make it so as long as Luke wins these next 2 games, no matter what, Marist can still win.
Yeah.
Versus if Luke did not win it in it, or if Luke did not make it a 1-stock game, then it would have actually been instead Luke has to 2-stock or else it goes to a tiebreaker. And in tiebreaker, it goes to overtime. So you don't want to go to overtime when Mr. Purple is an option.
Oh yeah, no, this 3rd point is not enough just yet to seal this game away. Luke did enough job at least making sure that they have a second chance in this final hour for Marist. But I mean, this is a no mistakes kind of situation. They have to win both these games. They have to. I mean, that's really it. They have to win both of these games. If Baco takes this game, then it's, match is over, series is done, go home, everybody. But Marist takes one more game. They're back in the running here. They still have a shot at this. It is still somehow anybody's series. Marist, they're keeping things nice and tight, which is why, they absolutely deserve to be in this upper echelon of the standings just as much as Quinnipiac does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's why their records are not too different. Like, it's pretty close. So, I mean, it's sort of exactly what we expected, that very close match between 2 teams that are pretty closely ranked.
Well, potentially one more game or 2. Either way, we see who will take this series right in front of us. Wow. The question is, how long will it take? Some great reads so far from Luke to find an early lead. Sephiroth is one of those characters where any percent can trickily be kill percent if you play your cards right. The problem is Luke has all of those Monado resources to kind of monitor, always has to be ready for that shield, and not an optimal recovery is again going to give Baco the spotlight, and one attack could really find things out, but Baco's going to let Smash expire, go back to this state where they're kind of just playing this sort of mid-range advantage and keeping this ledge in control of Quinnipiac. The down smash is
that was big,
but Baco wins out.
Because Baco saw in that first game the one time that the down smash got shielded and the shield was popped complete.
Whoa!
Oh no, that's
that
a big
so
interaction.
Sick. That was
that's
so
a big,
cool.
That was almost a shield break right there. It was fantastic decision making from Luke there to go, okay, it's worth it to just get hit because getting shield broken is a much worse possibility.
Okay. That up smash that up air.
On the topic from earlier, the fact that Baco took the shield break on that first game and ever since then has spot dodged the down smash from Sephiroth every single time. That is huge because that means that Baco went, okay, I got hit by it once. I got cheese there. Never again.
Baco absolutely switching it up, but Luke is kind of doing the same thing. He's understanding what's worked throughout this game and then using those, but that Omni Slash or Octo Slash is not going to carry you to a point where you can really play off of things. And Luke is finding their territory, but it's in these it's in these slow bursts, and in between them, Baco is just running this game so hard right now. At neutral B, I don't think it's landed once on the edge guard. At least it's a little non-committal, so Baco has to take some time to sort of recontest the stage after they get back on. But Luke is always losing those trades, and they're stuck yet again. Baco's finding a lot of damage out of even these kind of tiny interactions that they're finding. 142 here, and have the shield up. It is gone, so very scary position here, but the side B actually saves them for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, that side B was literally life-saving because if Luke did not have that side B active, the Shadow Flare, that was going to be a down smash completely intercepted by Shulk's forward smash, which would have most certainly killed. But I mean, smash will kill too. I mean,
that'll do. That'll do it.
Yeah. It'll do. And with that, that means that Baco wins this set, and with that, Quinnipiac wins the set against Marist College in a 16-10 score.
No, solid performance there from Baco, continuing to adapt to Luke's different strategies. Both of those players, they played a lot better in the second round, but because Baco also played better, they still end up playing the best. Quinnipiac wins 3 of their sets, 16 of their points, and their 13th series of the season. Well done by them, and a great way to start off our very first series of the night.
For sure. And I mean, we've got a lot more exciting matches coming up. We have, for example, as our next match, if I remember correctly, Manhattan College versus Rider University. That'll be interesting. And then we've got George Washington University versus St. John's. And George Washington is a team that is all about those upsets, and St. John's is another target for them. It's going to be interesting to see if they can keep doing those upsets, or if finally a higher ranked team will go, hey, like you're not taking this on me.
No, it's great to see. All 4 of these series are between teams that are pretty close on the standings. Manhattan and Rider and George Washington and St. John's all within a whole game of each other. If the lower ranked team ends up winning their series, then they will tie up with the team that they will have just beat in the standings. Very big strides that these games could bring us. But when we return, we'll hit that first one, Manhattan v. Rider. Don't go anywhere.
It begins with our mission and values, a culture of innovation and collaboration, achieving a global perspective beyond the classroom, turning education and theory into practice, developing lifelong interests and connections, and striving to make a difference in our communities. Marist College.
At Quinnipiac, we see more than a campus. We see a community built to ignite passions. We see more than a degree. We see the careers of tomorrow. We see more than a student. We see someone destined to make an impact.